What's going on, people? In this video I'm going to be talking through the other functional programming challenges that we still have to accomplish. Alright, and just for your information that this section is about to finish, so without further ado, let's get started into some coding. Right, so this one's about use the every method to check that every element in an array meets our criteria. Cool. So we're gonna be using the every method to check if every element in this array is meets a certain criteria. So it says that the every method works with arrays to check if element passes a particular test. It returns a boolean value true if all values meet the criteria, false if not. For example, the following code would check every element in the number array is less than 0. So the integer array is assigned to a variable number, and then this function has every function is called on the numbers array, which takes a callback functions. So here's passing the current value and then checking if the current value is less than 10. If it is, return false. If it's not, then it will return false. If it is less than 10, then it will return true, otherwise false. Brilliant. So the task is to use the every method inside the check positive function, which is this one here, to check if every element in the array is positive. So we need to check if every element in this array, which is an array, is positive. The function should return a boolean value. Cool. So as we know that the every method has to be applied on the array, so in this code we have got this array has been passed into the check positive function as the array, so we're gonna be applying the every method on this array. So let's do that. So array.every, okay, and this function takes a callback function, so we're gonna give it that. So function and and what's my parameter here? Value. So value is what you can call every single element in this array. Okay, so then I would do value, open the function, and then what do we want to check here? If every element in R is positive. How can we check if every element in this array is a positive? By checking if that is less than or greater than 0. Less than 0. So I'm gonna return, and then value is less than 0, and then it would I'm gonna check if the value is positive. Okay, so array is positive, which means that we need to check if the value is greater than 0. Alright, if or 0. Okay, so this one being done, and now what you need to do is apply the return the entire result from this entire statement. Okay, from that every method we need to return the result. Cool. So what you're seeing at the moment is a ECMAScript 6 function. However, if you want the code to be really clean and to be even fewer lines, which is just one line of code, you can write arrow function, which I'm gonna do now. So for arrow function, you delete the word function and just add the arrow. That's all. That's your ECMAScript function, which is the arrow function. Here we go. Perfect. Done and dusted. See, we have done everything in just one line of code. Alright, oops. Yeah, perfect. See, so that value is the each element in the array, and what we're checking with the arrow function is that if the value, which is each value from here, is greater than or equal to 0, and then we're simply returning the result here. Okay, here we go. So that's your parameter and that's your function statement. Pretty easy, isn't it? Alright, let's test it if it runs properly. Yes, hasta la vista challenge. We're cruising through the challenge. I'm really proud of you guys. Let's move on. Alright, so in this one we need to use the sum method to check that any element in an array meets our criteria. So before we checked it with the every method, but now we need to check with the sum method. Alright, the sum method works with arrays to check if any element passes a particular test, if any. So we're not gonna do with every element here, just one. Okay, any item passes the particular test. It returns a boolean true, boolean value true if any of the values meet the criteria, false if not. For example, the following code would check if any element in the numbers array is less than 10. Alright, and if it is, it will return true. If not, it will return false. So exactly the same as every function, but we check for any instead of every element in the array. Okay, so now it says use the sum method inside the check positive function to check if any element in the array is positive. Okay, so we're gonna check if any of them are positive. We need to return true. Okay, so again, arrow function, pretty easy, pretty simple now. So I would do array arr, which is this parameter here, because this array is been passed into this function, so this is an argument in this parameter. Okay, so with the sum, and then the function that takes in the callback function. So parameter would this time let's do it with same current value. Oh, okay. this time I'll do it with the current value. Alright, current value, and then the arrow function, and then opening curly braces, open and close curly braces, and then I'm gonna return current value, and I want to check if the value is positive, which is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, and then I'm gonna return the entire result from this sum function as well. Okay, cool. So that's done. Let's check if we hit the jackpot here. What do you say? Yes, my heart's beating as well. Let's see if it. Yay! Right, like a wind. Oh yeah, that's gone. Let's move on to the next challenge. Oh, okay, I'm getting excited minute by minute now. Alright, cool. So this challenge is about introduction to currying and partial application. That's a new word I've heard. Let's see what this is about. So the arity of a function is a number of arguments it requires. Okay, currying a function means to convert a function of n arities into n functions of arity 1. In other words, it restructures a function so it takes one argument that returns another function that takes the next argument, and so on. So it gives us an example here as well that this is an uncurried function, so which is, I would say, a normal function. So okay, and then it converts this normal function to the curried function. So the curried function, it declares one function, okay, passes in the argument, and then returns the function with another argument, which in return processes all the passing arguments at the last stage. So in this case, if you pass 1 and 2, then the calculation will happen right at the end, which is 1 plus 2 and equal 3. Alright, which is stated here. So in short, you can say curryable function is a function that takes every argument by itself, okay, like that, every argument by itself, and returns a new function that expects the next dependency into a function until all the dependencies have been fulfilled. So x and y has been called on, is taken in, perfect, and then it returns the final value right at the end, which is here. Alright, I really hope you guys understood this concept of curried functions. Right, so let's move on. This is useful in your program if you can't supply all the arguments to a function at one time. You can save each function call into a variable, which will hold the returned function reference that takes the next argument when it's available. Here's an example using the curried function in the example above. So it's called the curried function and saved in a variable, and then it's execute giving the variable the parameter of 2, which essentially means that it's calling this function again but with a second parameter, and then it will add 2 plus 1 equals 3. Alright, similarly a partial application can be described as applying few arguments into a function at a time and returning another function that is applied to more arguments. Here's an example. In partial function, it takes in 3 parameters, okay, and returns the statement. And now this one's partial fn, that's a variable, and it's called the bind function in this, and it's passing 3 parameters, this 1 and 2, and which will in return 13. So partial fn, and that will as well, and that takes the argument 10, and which returns 13, because 10 plus 2 is equal to 12, and then 10 plus 1 12 plus 1 is equal to 13. So now it says that fill in the body of the add function, which is this one. So it uses currying to add parameters x, y, and z. Cool. Right, so, we're gonna have to call the add function, as in the function with these many parameters, okay, but a function by itself. So what I'm gonna do here is return. Remember we said that a curried function is a function that takes every argument by itself. So in this exercise, these are our arguments, okay, 10, 20, and 30, which is x, y, and these are our parameters, sorry, x, y, and z. So arguments are 10, 20, and 30. Let me just clarify the difference between arguments and parameters. Parameters are the variables that you pass in the function, and then the arguments are the values in the variables. So in this one, x has a value of 10, so that's the argument and that's the parameter. Okay, I do apologize if I haven't told you the difference before, but it was really important to clear out this concept as well. All right, so yeah, as we have discussed about curried function, that is a function that takes every argument, which is 10, 20, and 30, and returns a new function that expects the next dependency. So in this one, it's already taking x, okay, which is 10, and now we want to return another function, the new function that takes in the dependency y, which is 20. So how are we going to do that? By return simple function and then y, and that's it. Now we have got the 20 as well. Alright, now what we want to do is return 30, which is z. Yes, you guessed it, another return a new function again and say a z parameter in it. Okay, so now that we've got all three parameters, x, y, and z, they're all testing this, adding these arguments. So right at the end, remember we said that it does this cycle until all the dependencies have been fulfilled. So these are the dependencies, okay? X, y, and z. The dependencies have been fulfilled. So now we just return the final value. Okay, so I would do return x plus y, x plus y plus z, or z. Alright, and that will actually give us the result, which is supposed to be 60. Let's see if it does. Will it? Yes, it does. 60. Brilliant. Good work, guys. So just remove the console.log and run it. Bingo! Alright, so I'm gonna repeat myself again about curried function. It's really important that you get to grasp the concept of this. Okay, a curried function is the one that takes every argument 10, 20, 30, x, y, and z, and returns a new function that expects the next dependency. So the first dependency was x and the second was y until all the dependencies x, y, and z have been fulfilled. So you need to keep returning you need to keep returning the functions until all the dependencies have been fulfilled. And once they have been fulfilled, then right at the end you return the final statement. Okay, I really hope you understand this concept, guys. I really do. But if you haven't, just drop me a comment in my video and I will get back to you guys for sure. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Oops. Oops. Yep. There we go. Perfect. Alright. This is it for the functional programming challenges, guys. And I'll be continuing with this section in my separate video. So until then, have fun coding.